Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Akin Marino. We're going to talk about anger today. There's a lot of outdated techniques out there. Since the 1970s, we've been talking about, they'll tell you if you're angry, pound your pillow, count to 10, go into your car and scream. These things are outdated. We know better now. What it does when you do those things or you go and, boxing, go punch a wall, go do something, what that does is just you're releasing anger, but what you're doing is you're controlling it. You want to contain your anger, but you're not, the anger is still there. It's still there. What we want you to do instead is we want you to heal. We want you to resolve the problems that your anger is bringing to your attention. Anger basically is the space between expectation and reality. That's what it is. That's what happens. You expect something to happen. You have an expectation. The reality is opposite of it. Anger creeps in and makes a home there. So we're going to talk today about how to heal from anger, not just how to contain your anger. When you count to 10, when you go punch a pillow, when you scream in your car or you do something, you're just containing it. The question is, what is overwhelming for you? Why are you filled with negative emotions? Does that make sense? So emotional health requires that anger should be processed and digested, or it'll keep recycling and resurfacing. Anger is an emotional energy. Don't forget that. Remember I told you that emotions are energy emotion. Anger is an emotional energy that resides in our body and mind until it runs its course. It will run its course. So the anger is there. It's like a symptom. If you have a headache, it's a symptom of something. If it's a symptom. It's trying to tell you something. So don't waste your anger. Anger comes to tell you something about yourself. It comes to tell you something about a situation. The way people usually think about this is they would react, then they retreat, and then they think. So as soon as something happens, they immediately react. And then they pause and they say, okay, let me go and think about this. Let me remove myself. Let me go think about this. And then they think, and then sometimes they come to a conclusion. We want you to do it a little bit differently. How about retreat first? And retreat doesn't mean that you leave the place geographically. It just means that you go to a space in your mind and then think about it and then react. A friend of mine said something to me over the phone at one point. They called me and they said something that hurt my feeling. And, I just thought, let me just send them a text or let me call them back and say this to them and say to them. But I know this, retreat. So I decided to retreat. Think about it. See it from their point of view and see, rethink it. See what's going on. Let me analyze this. But it's when I decide to respond, because when you're now going to respond, you're not going to be reactionary. You're going to respond. That's living from the best of you and not from the worst of you. And your response is going to be kind. Your response is going to be empathetic or empathic. Does that make sense? So we have to learn from your anger. What is the anger trying to tell you? What is anger trying to tell you? We get angry because somebody breaks our should. They should have done this. They should have done that. They shouldn't have, invaded my space. They should have been more respectful. They shouldn't have annoyed me. They shouldn't, all of this it's trying to tell you something. What is it? It's what you value. What do you value? It's trying to point towards a value system. Maybe you value respect. Maybe you value freedom. Maybe you value whatever it is that you value. You just the shouldn't, and could have. All of that is just ways of expressing a value set of values. Does that make sense? So to learn from your anger and not just to react to triggers with rage or passive aggression. Some people are not, then you won't even know they're angry. That's passive aggression. They will sabotage and they would withhold attention. They will withhold love. They will withhold all goodness from you just because they're angry. You see what I'm saying? So anger, we just need to learn how to, we need to learn how to process it. You have to say, what is it that this anger is teaching me? What is it that get to the root cause of it? What is important to you? You know, what are your sensitivities? What are your boundary lines? You know, and why do you have those boundary lines? So let anger teach you something. Let anger teach you to care for yourself. Let anger teach you to put more value on the things that you value. Let anger teach you to honor the other person, see things from their point of view. Does that make sense? So to learn from your anger and not just to triggers, with everything that you have, you need to control your impulse. Remember what I told you? Don't just react, retreat. Don't just react, retreat. If you stop yourself before you discharge anger, because anger is energy, it's energy. You don't want to release it into the atmosphere. You don't want to. You don't want to release it into the atmosphere because it pollutes it. Just think of it as poison. So what you want to do is, if you stop yourself before you discharge your anger, or before you bury it, because some people will just bury it, give yourself the opportunity to choose how to respond to it. Think a little bit. Impulse control techniques can turn an out of control life into one that is productive, one that is fulfilling, one that is filled with meaning in relationships. So one of the things that you want to look at is, when we're talking about exploring and learning from anger, is to discover the triggers. What triggers you? Mindfulness is a way to determine this. When you actively and openly pay attention to your emotions, your thoughts, your physical sensations, without judgments, to discover what causes you to just dump and feel so much anger. Some triggers could be, that situation I'm dealing with right now is so unfair, it's so unjust, it's so, issues of equity and inequality, those that can cause you to be angry. Actions that cause you to feel disrespected, to feel hurt, to feel frustrated and disappointed, those will cause anger. Things that you simply don't like, just annoyances and irritations would cause you to feel angry. So the second step is to learn how to catch the impulse that precedes the anger. You may not be aware of it at the time, but there is always an impulse that comes before the angry outburst or the passive aggressiveness. So anger impulses are bodily sensations. Your body actually feels this way, and thoughts that come after the anger has been triggered. So it may feel like anger, and the anger impulse is one and the same, but they're not. So here's some examples of impulses. You start feeling hot, your body starts feeling hot. Some people feel like they need to use a restroom. You're feeling tension in your neck, you start raising your voice and maybe the tone changes. You start stonewalling people, you're sighing frequently or loudly, you're feeling threatened, you feel fear and jealousy, you're feeling irritable, your heart starts to palpitate, you start thinking about revenge or aggression, you're ruminating on your anger triggers. Those are impulses. Once you start getting those impulses, you need to calm yourself down. You need to be aware of these impulses, and you're ready, for you to calm and keep charge of your body rather than venting or unloading. You have to learn how to self-soothe. So, one of the things we want you to do is to breathe. Just breathe, relaxation. Tell yourself to relax and not react. Relax and not react. You can sit still for a minute. You want to be present in your body. You want to, don't run away. Don't run away. That's why we don't want you to run away. We want you to be present in your body, in your body. Sit still. You can hold on to something so you don't do something stupid. What some of the things I even tell people is, you can write a text, but write it to yourself and send it to yourself. Don't send it to anybody else. Keep your eyes open. Make sure that you feel everything around you, but you're saying this will pass. Let it go through you, but not stay in you. Let it go through you and not stay in you. So it is important that these are all important techniques. These are ways that you can, actually not just release the anger, but you can actually learn from the anger. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I'm Dr. Akeem Marino. Find me on YouTube, find me on Instagram, find me on Twitter, and find us on Facebook. And we'll see you next time. Bye.